This is Jonathan Small, host and producer of Face to Face. And Face to Face is one of two different programs that I broadcast here live every single week at accesstv.org studios in downtown Hartford. And Face to Face is a show that's designed to ask my guests the hard questions and give you, the viewers, the answers and information that you deserve to know. This morning on Face to Face, I have a returning guest who actually was a guest on All About You a few years ago, and I have the luxury of having him on this morning on Face to Face. We're going to talk about the entertainment industry and his up-and-coming workshop. My guest this morning is no other than cartoonist, filmmaker, producer, many other different titles, Joe Young. Good morning, Joe.
Hey, good morning. Good morning.
Okay, it's good to have you back here again.
Good morning.
All right, so nobody better knows the entertainment industry than you, Joe. And the first question is the entertainment industry designed for everybody?
No.
No, okay.
You got to have a tough skin. You got to want it so bad that it doesn't matter. But that's true with any industry that's competitive.
Right. Now, when you're trying to break into the entertainment industry, is it just about talent, or are there many other different factors that consist of?
I think what I call the 30-70 rule, it's 30% talent and 70% business and hustle. Now, if you want to do a hobby, it's 100% talent and everything else. But once you bring in money in the situation and you got to sustain off of it, it's 30. From my experience, it's 30% hustle. 30% art and 70% hustle.
Is there any such thing of luck too when you talk
you
about
need luck.
You got to have luck.
God,
God, that's a blessing.
I think Tyler Perry probably said it most elegantly. He says you can, water your seed, your seed, and it can grow, but for it to really grow, God's got to give the increase. And I find that to be true.
It's true
because you find mediocre talent blowing up. Becoming famous, becoming rich, and you have some of the most talented people. They can't get a break.
Right.
There's other Michael Jacksons and Tyler Perrys and Beyoncés, out there, but you never hear of them.
Well, Joe, in the beginning of the industry, particularly with television and film, it was always designed that you had to go out to California mostly. I know New York had advertisement agencies and commercials, but over the past maybe 10 to 20 years, it's kind of broadened beyond just California and New York. Atlanta seems to be a growing, established entertainment industry. There's some other places throughout the country. Does your geographical location also has a lot to do with this entertainment industry?
It does help. I mean, because if you're in LA, that's where the movie studios physically are.
Yes.
If you want to do literary stuff, New York is right there.
Right.
Atlanta has its thing. But you can make it from anywhere. And we'll talk about the workshop later.
Yes.
We have, what I didn't have growing up, we have something called a new city called social media.
Social media, right.
Overnight, people are becoming famous. They're becoming multimillionaires because you don't need the agent. You don't need the manager. You don't need the distributor. If you got something unique, something special, you push a button and everybody in the world gets it and they share it.
Well, the social media actually makes it more easier, but it also does that make it more competitive, that it gives many other people the ability to get into the industry?
But then it goes back to, if you have something that's the most unique or you're the best at what you do, you'll find a way to the top and you'll get identified.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I don't think it matters how competitive it is. And a lot of people think you got to have the best cameras and the best director. If you got the best content, you're going to be seen. That's, again, my belief in what I've seen.
Now, when you're doing television and film, you add in videos many times, commercials, and obviously social media. You can do many of these things through the internet as well. And it's not just jobs in front of the camera. There's many jobs and opportunities behind the camera. But again, you still got to have somewhat of a legitimate game plan and a strategy, even if you're trying to get any particular job in this industry.
Hey, but that's true to life,
true to life,
brother.
Right?
That's so you trying to woo that girl is the same thing. You got to have a plan and a strategy.
Exactly.
So it's the same. But you know exactly what you're talking. A plan is so important, especially in this business. So with a plan, you have goals and benchmarks and everything else. So a plan is so important.
Is the union still a big issue, though, trying to get into the industry for unionized occupations?
Yeah, I think it's important because they're kind of like your ambassador.
Right.
They're also your protection. And if you're serious about your craft, I encourage anybody to get into the union. And they look out for you too. You know, so I think the union, you know, SAG-AFTRA is very important for actors or the Directors Guild, the Writers Guild, or Producers Guild. I think it's important.
Now, you kind of made the transition from a cartoonist to a filmmaker. Did you have to go to any particular schooling to get that type of training?
Oh, yeah, it doesn't come easy. I got a lot of education. I had to get my master's at a university. You might have heard of it. It's called School of Hard Knocks.
Right.
So I got a lot of education. Me and Stan, I saw Stan was in my math class.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
he counted better than I.
Okay.
Yeah.
People got this perception that it can be a cutthroat business. You can get ripped off. You can lose a lot of money. You can cause a lot of enemies. Is there jealousy and some of those other things that I have mentioned? Is that all factual evidence in this type of industry?
Yeah, but again, it goes back to in any business I find a nonprofit world, politics just as cutthroat as business. I've seen families with the same thing. I think what makes it different with entertainment, the money is so much.
Right.
So, you know, people lose more. But if a guy's making $10 an hour and his cousin rips him off,
right,
you know, it's the same thing. But I think it's just the, you know, just thinking about all the amount of money that's involved. It just makes it seem more fantastic and more cutthroat and everything else. But anytime there's any type of business or an exchange of goods, there's always going to be cutthroat. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be all that stuff, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, actually. Now, again, you did a feature film, Diamond in the Rough.
Diamond Rough.
I'm sorry about that. And you was able to put that film in here, I guess in Hartford, actually. Did the whole entire film, basically, I believe, in Hartford. But wasn't it the point that you was actually had to get some more access to capital? And I think one time Spike Lee was having some issues with making one of his movies, and he had to turn to Bill Cosby. Is that something that you got to always keep in the back of your mind, some type of contact that just in case you don't have enough revenue to greenlight or get the project financed?
Oh, yeah. Well, and there's certain companies who come in and do gap financing. I mean, but you got to have a plan A, B, and C because most things don't work out. Doing Diamond Rough, in the beginning, we did all that crowdfunding. Me and my son, we sold our cars, whatever it took. And eventually we found certain investors. But even after the movie was made, you're still raising money for pickup shots. So, you know, doing a film on the level that I did it, you know, just say, a little, you know, smaller local one, but one that's going to go into theaters and then be considered by a major distributor, money was the most difficult. Creating it, organizing it was probably 30%. 70% was the hustle, the raising the money.
So anything could always happen to drive up the costs when you're making a particular movie more than what it was originally designed to cost?
There's always things that come in. That's why you got to protect yourself with insurance.
Yes.
And, you know, things like that, which they have special insurance. But it's it's very, very difficult to make a film. And I respect filmmakers who do it.
Which is better, in your opinion, long term to, I guess, market towards for opportunities? The film, making movies, or making television shows?
Television shows are more lucrative, I think.
Okay.
Yep. I think movies might be more easier because of one-shot deal. With a television show, you may, if you do it independently, you got to come up with 13 episodes or whatever it might be. But more from a business standpoint, I think that but a TV series is more lucrative.
More lucrative.
Yep.
And again, most of your TV series are still shot in California, or they kind of broadening out
all over the place. You got some people doing shows on YouTube and Netflix, and, you know, Amazon.
Okay.
It's a different world right now. Because of technology.
Technology, exactly.
Yep.
And again, this is kind of level the playing field with the social media to be able to do many different things that you couldn't do, let's say, in the past.
Yep.
And is this going to continue to be, an advantage, having social media for many people trying to break into this industry?
Oh, yeah. Social media is so important. it is very, very important. It's essential because of the numbers and the network. Also, if a studio is going to pick you up, ultimately, though, I think it's best to get a studio to pick you up because they can get in places you can't. As much as we want to think independent is the new major, the major still can do things that a guy can't. But a guy can do certain things. But if you really want to explode it internationally on a consistent basis, I say deal with a studio. But what you have in your advantage is social media.
Yes.
They're not necessarily looking at your content. You know what they're looking at? They're looking at your Instagram numbers, your Facebook numbers, your YouTube numbers. I remember.
But Joe, we up on our first break. I hate to cut you
quick,
off.
Man.
It did go by. I'm giving you a little stitch in time towards the end.
Yep.
But we got to take a quick commercial break.
Okay.
We're going to come back very shortly with part 2. I'll let you finish with what you were saying, and I want to get into the music industry.
Excellent.
Okay, this is Jonathan Small. I am enjoying hosting this edition of Face to Face this morning with my guest. He's a cartoonist, filmmaker, producer, many other different titles, no other than Joe Young. And we're going to come back very shortly with part 2 of Face to Face. Thank you. Yeah, it just went.
Hi, my name is Eddie Brown, Program Director at Hartford Communities That Care. I've been in the field of youth development and mentoring for the past 5 years, serving children, youth, young adults, and families. It has been an amazing experience since I have been on board with HCTC to help make a difference in the lives of our youth. Throughout my experiences, I've learned the importance of a good mentor, which is simply being the adult that has time for a child, who cares about that child, and who believes in that child. Here's a few points. Allowing the youth to understand their full potential, respects cultural differences, providing the prolonged relationship which helps the youth as they go through life, listens well, is stable, is a positive role model, nurtures a positive relationship that respects the mentee, reinforces mentee's success, shares decision-making with mentee, and last but not least, passion, wanting to make a difference. Practicing and applying these skills have been very vital in all the work I do to help assist and coordinate in the programs and services we offer at HCTC. I thank you for your time, and for all the mentors and role models out there, let's continue to be the change.
Good morning again. This is Jonathan Small. I'm hosting this edition this morning of Face to Face with my guest. He's a cartoonist, filmmaker, producer, no other than Joe Young. Let's continue back with our show. Well, Joe, you was leaving off indicating some things about social media. You want to finish off?
Social media is so important. So as you're working on your craft, also work on your social media numbers.
Yes.
I remember Maury Starr, who we'll talk about you said a little bit later. We had a group.
Right.
We flew him up to BET from Florida to New York. BET had a big meeting with executive. The boy, I mean, you know how Maurice wrote. We went in there like 30 deep with handlers and everything. And the kids were prepared, and we thought we were just going to get in there, and the kids are just going to do it in front of the executive dance and get a deal.
Yes.
And so we get in there, and Maurice tells everybody to leave. It's just me, the executive, Maurice Starr, in the meeting, and Maurice's like, okay, and the guy used to work for Maurice, and Maurice said, you ready for the boys? We came this long way. You ready for them to perform? He said, no, let's look at their social media numbers first.
That counts. The social media
We got
numbers.
nothing because we didn't focus on, I mean, we were just running. We were so busy, but more of our time should have been spent on social media.
Social media.
Yep.
But that's somewhat of a connection into the music industry because we're going to talk about that now. Basically, it's a little bit different than the TV and film, but it's still in the same family. When you're trying to break into the music industry, whether you're trying to become an artist or just any particular role behind the scenes, what is the first big step that you have to be able to decide to do?
First, you got to make sure that you're passionate and you're doing it for the right reason. You're not doing it to be rich and famous. It's this urge and this burning desire that I want to sing. I love this craft, and that is the most important thing. And it goes back to what I said: if you're the best at what you do, people come towards you. You don't have to go anywhere. And then you got to find a good team, a good squad around you.
Now, always when you hear some stories of people selling, let's say, millions of albums like TLC, and then they have to file, I believe, for bankruptcy, or they're losing money. Is there some what actually happens when a group sells that amount of albums and they think they're supposed to be able to get lucrative revenue, and then they find themselves filing for bankruptcy or just finding themselves broke? And that seems to be a common trend that happens more often than not for many artists in the music industry. What actually puts the artist in that particular predicament?
Based on, and again, I'm fairly new to music. Maurice Starr brought me in, but I got a 20-year education in 2 years.
2 years.
And so I just know from the stories that I hear, I think there's a lot of factors. It could be bad management. It could be you want to live that life and you have all these expenses, and those expenses have to be recouped. And it could be simply that people don't manage their money. They don't save. Again, you find athletes in the same position.
Same position, exactly.
You find Pookie down the street in the same position who spent more than he was taking in. It's the same thing. I think Gayle King told me people don't change. They just become bigger of who you are. So if you find somebody before they were famous was very frugal, more than likely they'll be frugal when they get the money, and they'll invest and they'll have money. But if you see somebody who's living a life and they're trying to impress and look good, they're probably the candidates who will probably lose their money.
But I guess, and again, what you were saying about the 70%, 30% role of 70% the business side and 30% the entertainment or talent side. Now, Maurice Starr actually had a role with New Edition, and the movie came out, I believe, last year, and it showed New Edition from the beginning stages of their career and how they was trying to advance. And it looked like at one point that they weren't making any, I guess enough money to really take to the next level. I mean, I think the check was $1 something. I'm not exactly sure, but it was a very low check, $1.80. And you say you got to have tough skin, but what else do you have to sustain yourself long term when things like that, happens to you?
You have to have that ability to bounce back. It's not the bad thing that happens; it's how you react to the bad thing. True to life in the business. What I liked about New Edition, they got hit, but then they kept coming back. They kept coming back. They kept coming back, readjusting what they were doing. And so I think you got to have tenacity. Tenacity, okay.
Yeah. Now, I guess with technology, you can pretty much do many types of recording albums anywhere throughout the country as long as you have a established studio operation. And I think Orlando, where you do some of your work at in the past, is that a growing market also? Because sometimes people don't realize different areas of the country that's emerging in the music industry.
In music, it does. Charlotte, probably.
Okay,
Atlanta. Even again, if we have the right talent here, Hartford is ripe with talent.
I always hear that,
But it's true. And people have come out of Hartford, whether it's Jagged Edge or an acting Ed LaSalle or, Nika Nani Rose, you know what I mean? And so I believe people can make it anywhere.
But don't you need the recording labels that many times people from the New England area talk about, that they can't really sign a deal or a contract because you don't have many recording companies or music labels? Is that still an issue here?
No, not with technology, man. If your music is hot, you got it up on the CD Baby or those music sites. People are coming to you. They're looking at your numbers. They're looking at your network.
Now maybe I could be wrong. I just want to ask you this question. That image plays a lot. That if you're trying to establish yourself and attract yourself, you have to kind of look like you have some money, that people will look at you differently if they see you with nice clothes, a nice car. Is that a reality in this industry? That
I think in certain circles, but things are changing. You see some of these young kids, man. I mean, they're fashionable. We may not say, but I think it's really individual based. I think that's more with real estate and stuff like that. You're trying to sell a house, you have to look good.
Yeah.
The days of I think trying to impress is over. I think it goes back to content.
Oh, okay.
It goes back to content.
But you have to still be able to get into certain circles, whether I know you have this up-and-coming workshop that we're going to talk about in our next segment.
Yep.
But sometime if you're trying to get a contact with a Tyler Perry or L.A. Reid in the music industry, that they just don't talk to anybody. I mean,
you can't get into those guys. You can't get in. That's why you got to find some type of interference, someone who knows somebody. You can't. And I heard a guy who was actually earlier today before I came here. He was afraid to. He's a writer. He was afraid to show his work because he was afraid that he was going to get ripped off by somebody.
Right.
If he sends it to a studio, I'm afraid they're going to take my work. I said, I'm sure it happens, but it doesn't happen as much as you think. I think the Tyler Perrys and the Diddy's and all of them have more to lose because people think of the same ideas sometime and they have a big target on themselves. So if they look at your work, they are putting themselves in a position to be sued.
Right.
And so a lot of times they won't even look at it, not because they forgot where they came from or they're bad people or this and that. They're trying to really protect themselves. And these young emerging artists have got to get off their high horse and realize it's more of a risk sometimes for the person in position.
Exactly.
And that's why they keep their circle tight and you can't get in. And then a lot of times they're creating their own material. And they got their cousins, they got their nephew who's got music, and they don't know you from a can of paint.
Right.
And then you get mad because they won't look at it. I think Jay-Z summed it up where he says, people aren't mad at me for what I did for them, they're mad at me for what I won't do for them.
I'm glad you brought up about your cousins because I wasn't even thinking about this, but I'm going to bring it up now. When MC Hammer, I believe, I guess in 1990 or 1991, I think he had estimated an earned revenue of 50 million or 33 million,
Crazy.
something like that.
Yes.
But he was taking so many of his family members, his friends. He had a high payroll in the millions of employing people, many times for not even doing much of a job. I mean, now, is that something that you're going to see less and less of today? You're not going to see 50 to 100 people working for one entertainer doing nothing or doing miscellaneous work. Has that been a turning point in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I think, and I met Hammer before, and I met one of his singers actually on the plane, and I connected with him. But I think MC Hammer had a big heart.
He did.
You know what I'm saying? If they had barbecue on stage, they could have a family reunion.
Right.
But I think when people see that stuff, you carry what you need. Will it happen again? More than likely. Right. But again, if you budget and manage your money, the budget will say, I can't bring all these people. But what I do like about Hammer is he did it and he brought a lot of people with him.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But the key is some of those people, you really work with them and develop them so they can get to that place where everybody's always eating. You know what I mean? Okay. But you got to be real frugal.
Real frugal.
Yeah.
Joe, we're up on our second break. We're going to take a quick commercial break, come back with the last segment, talk about your up-and-coming workshop that's coming up this up-and-coming May. And I'm learning a lot about the industry by having you on this morning.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. This is Jonathan Small. I am enjoying hosting this edition of Face to Face this morning with my guests, cartoonist, filmmaker, producer, many other different titles, no other than Joe Young. We're going to come back with our last segment of Face to Face. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Eddie Brown, Program Director at Hartford Communities That Care. I've been in the field of youth development and mentoring for the past 5 years, serving children, youth, young adults, and families. It has been an amazing experience since I have been on board with HCTC to help make a difference in the lives of our youth. Throughout my experiences, I've learned the importance of a good mentor, which is simply being the adult that has time for a child, who cares about that child, and who believes in that child. Here's a few points. Allowing the youth to understand their full potential, respects cultural differences, providing the prolonged relationship which helps the youth as they go through life, listens well, is stable, is a positive role model, nurtures a positive relationship that respects the mentee, reinforces mentee's success, shares decision-making with mentee, and last but not least, passion, wanting to make a difference. Practicing and applying these skills have been very vital in all the work I do to help assist and coordinate in the programs and services we offer at HCTC. I thank you for your time, and for all the mentors and role models out there, let's continue to be the change.
Good morning again. This is Jonathan Small. I'm hosting this edition this morning of Face to Face with my guest, cartoonist, filmmaker, producer, Joe Young. Let's continue back with our last segment. Well, Joe, this is an up-and-coming workshop that you're planning next month. Is designed to do a few key elements. Would you like to talk about this workshop that you're planning?
Well, the workshop is May 19th, which is a Saturday at Goodwin College from, 11 to 3, I believe. And my 35 years of experience of making a lot of mistakes with a couple victories, I'm trying to show emerging artists how to eat off their work, or creative people or entrepreneurs. I've created 7 tips on success, and I've broken those up with experiences for creative people who want to eat off their art or their craft, or entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Tips like work hard, how to use social media, how to deal with criticism, how to be organized, how to be the best at what you do. And so I have people in the industry who have made it, quote unquote, to share their stories and ask questions, from like literary agents, a famous executive producer of some of the TV shows you see on TV. And it's going to be a multimedia workshop. So I'm going to have handouts and take questions. It's going to be, I come from a performing arts background too, so it's going to be a theatrical workshop. I always try to do something in a seminar or workshop that's never been done before.
Now, are you going to use some of your own personal experiences that you've been through?
Oh, that's so. It's been a lot. It's been a lot, and it'll be some painful experiences where I've learned the most.
So this workshop is going to be more like an educational learning piece. Is it going to be like a training seminar?
It's like a training seminar. It's going to be motivational. It's going to have handouts and charts how to price your work. There might be a young cartoonist. How do you sell to a newspaper? What price do I put on it? A poet or a rapper wants to perform. I'm going to show them kind of like a formula that you can use to charge for your work, or standard.
Is there going to be any follow-ups beyond just this workshop, or just this one
this
workshop
is,
alone?
You can make it anywhere, because I want to say you can make it. I don't care if you're in Boise, Idaho, or Hartford, Connecticut, or Savannah, Georgia. You can make it with certain tips that I drop.
Now, is this just designed? You mentioned some other areas beyond entertainment, but I would assume entertainment covers a lot of different areas.
Right, but this is for creative people. It might be an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Anybody who's creative.
Creative.
You might be in the medical field. You want to be a lecturer or a doctor. You know what I'm saying? If you're creative, I'm going to show you how to package and market your work.
Is this your first time ever putting together a workshop like this?
No, I've done before. Years ago, I did 30% art, 70% hustle, but I put it on bionics.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So it's but then in the future, I'm going to break it up. How to make it from anywhere as a writer. And that workshop, I'm going to show you how you make an Amazon bestseller. I've had 2 of my books become bestseller, a number 1 Amazon bestseller. And I'm going to show that. Then I might do how to make it from anywhere as a cartoonist, how to make it anywhere as a filmmaker. But this is going to be the first one. It's already been booked in places already.
Now, when you say you're trying to show people how you can make it anywhere, not just geographically, but also just whoever you are, if you have maybe not enough self-esteem, self-worth, you might feel something inside you is lacking. You may not feel you have the right look or whatever. Is this going to be a little bit beyond just the geographics? You say hi.
Well, actually, you need to get it checked, because I wasn't even thinking like that.
Okay.
You get me in trouble, man.
Right.
But that's great. No, actually, I'm just being transparent. I was just thinking geographically. But I mean, I guess I say it in certain ways, but wherever you are in that station of life.
Right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But you said it more elegantly than I did. So I got to work on that.
Okay. And again, it's going to be at the Goodwin College in East Hartford, Connecticut.
Yep.
Okay.
Goodwin, they're a partner of mine. Mark Scheinberg, the president, has opened up the doors, but you got to register quick, because it's going to go quick. Because I got a workshop this Saturday for kids. It's a free cartoon workshop at Upper Abilene Collaborative. They're giving supplies and bags and gifts. And so that's just like sold out. That was almost sold out the second week out. And this one is filling up quick. I only got like 50, 60 slots in this one, so it's going quick.
I think also sometimes we got to mention the fact of everybody at times may need a second chance, maybe even a third chance. Sometimes people feel like if they haven't been able to establish themselves at an early stage, that it's kind of late for them or it's kind of more difficult for them. I guess in some ways, if you are an investor and you try and invest your money, the longer, the older you get, it might be a little bit, you have to save more, I guess, to make up for your lost time. But there's so many areas, I think, in life that maybe this workshop can be marketed towards to reach a lot of different people. Is just, again, something that you are looking into passionately, like you mentioned before, you just want to help show people other ways that you can do things?
It's so funny. It took me 50 years to figure out my passion. I've done it all. I believe my passion is teaching others about arts and entertainment. You know, and what's really cool about this workshop is we have people over 50, 60, 70, and that's what's so great about art. If you can package yourself and figure it out, at any age you can become a professional artist.
Exactly.
So I encourage seniors to come out too. Yeah. Or older adults, I think is the correct term.
Now, Joe, sometime in the business world, particularly, we mentioned earlier about social media and technology, but many times for many different occupations, companies are looking that you got to be certified. You got to have some type of degree. You got to have some type of schooling that say that you graduated. Is that also a big area that people have to be aware of when you're trying to break into a lucrative industry like entertainment in a competitive industry?
I think go back to if you're the best at what you do, you know, Jonathan, you're a great producer. Someone sees the work that you do and like, oh, I like that guy. It doesn't matter if you have a master's at Harvard or MIT or Emerson College. You get what I'm saying? But I say if you can get the degree, that makes you unstoppable.
Okay.
Because then you might get into an administrative position that then once you got to get inside the house.
Right.
Whatever it takes. If it means education, if that's your strength, if it's being creative, creating content, you just got to get in the house. And once you get in the house, you work your butt off and you'll rise to the top.
And again, this workshop, you're saying you can make it anywhere, something on that level. So again, people should not always look at, and I guess to some degree, sometimes you got to be at certain places, like you mentioned, you got to at least be inside the industry. But sometimes don't be discouraged or skeptical that maybe we're not seeing big name executive producers, a lot of different studios in certain areas of the country. So that's also another area you want to always keep that in people's mind.
Yep, definitely. Definitely. No, you said it. What you said.
Okay.
Basically.
And again, you still have your Joe Young Studios. You
still got
company.
all that. The Maurice thing, still got that. But I was telling Stan, I'm going to go back and get my master's because I love to teach. I love to teach.
Teach, right.
Yeah, but I always have that Joe Young Studios. But the older I get, you know, the more I want to consolidate things. I remember when I shot Diamond Rough, I had a big 7,000 square foot studio downtown Hartford. At the same time, I had a production office in East Hartford, and we had a sound stage that was 6,000 square feet in the Meadows. I've done that. It's too much. I just want to keep it simple now as I get older.
Get older, right.
Yep.
You had mentioned, I heard in the past, I don't know where was that, but you was talking about one of the biggest obstacles, let's say, in this part of the country, the New England area. Was it distribution? Is that still a big
That's
issue?
anywhere.
That's anywhere, okay.
Yeah. And if you got some great content, distribution is very difficult. But in this workshop, I'm going to show you how to get distribution. I've gotten domestic distribution, which is distribution in the U.S., and I've gotten international. You just got to get to these gatekeepers, and there's ways to do it.
Joe, what exactly does a distribution do towards this industry for people who don't even know anything about
A distributor brings your work to the masses.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's just as important as somebody able to green light your project, as they say in the film industry or the TV industry.
Well, there's different layers of being green lit. And if you come to the workshop, that's one of the things we're going to talk about.
We're going to talk about, exactly.
Yep.
So distribution, green lighting, big factors.
And contracts.
Contracts too.
I've been here before. You sign that wrong thing, it'll affect you 15 years down the road.
Right.
Maurice Starr, genius, record producer, who I still run with, but for 2 years, he showed me certain clauses that have to be in the contract. One is the length of a contract. You a certain amount of time, you just don't do it.
Right.
Then there's also the P&A, print and advertising costs, marketing costs, where they get you at. But the most important is one that I'm going to share at the workshop. It's a performance standard.
Performance standards.
Maurice has gotten me out. I've had these high-paying lawyers, and this guy, Maurice, started with a 6 education, told me how to negotiate a contract. Actually, he helped me negotiate his contract with the New Edition movie. Maurice just gave it to me, told me what to do, and then we sent it back to BET. Yep.
So contracts definitely play a critical role.
You got to know what you're doing, man. One mistake.
I think I saw that in the movie New Edition. I think it was Michael Bivins. He walked into the studio, and I think he was just upset. How come? I forgot exactly what he was talking about, but I guess, again, New Edition were not really getting a certain amount of money. And I think the studio executives told him, I know at one point, welcome to the music industry. But I guess he didn't look at the contract very carefully.
Yep.
And you have to know exactly.
And that's where Maurice Starr gets in trouble, too. They said, oh, Maurice took all that nonsense.
Right.
Maurice wasn't his dear manager. Matter of fact, Maurice lost. But they all worked out. If you watch the movie, I thought that was a great educational movie where they, pretty much, separated from the original manager, Brooke Paynes. But after a while, Brooke was right, and they're with him today.
But also, producers have a lot to do with it, too, because New Edition, when they really took it to the next level, they was able to get Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. The same year, Bobby Brown was able to get Babyface and L.A. Reid.
Yep.
So having big name established producers to make your sound, much better, or however they can take your sound, can play a role towards an artist trying to just become a singer. You got to have that back. You got to have. It's like being in a family. You got to have that big brother. You got to have that muscle, man. But I'm gonna tell you who I learned a lot from. A lot of people don't like him, but I spent like 5 days down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Right.
Don King.
Don King. Yes.
Oh my God, that was I've learned so much in those certain days. And so at the workshop, I'm bringing all this, what I learned, tips that Bill Duke have given me, Curtis Robinson. I mean, just all these iconic people, Gayle King, and I'm dropping all this information so people don't have to struggle as much as I did.
Right.
Because it's hard, man. It's discouraging.
Yeah.
And I understand, and I'm not the most religious, but I'm very spiritual. And it's like the more I give, the more it comes back to me. So if I'm sharing these gems, man, the older I get, me and Stan was talking about earlier, not that you don't care, but you don't care what people think anymore. So there's probably going to be a lot of lawyers upset at me and everything else once I have this workshop, and I'm working on a book called If, which is a survival guide for emerging artists. That should be out by November. I dropped all my projects in November when my mother passed. So that'll be ready to go out in November. It's being represented by Letitia Gomez, who is Omar Tyree's agent, and she does a lot of New York Times bestselling books. But it's called If, Survival Guide for Emerging Artists.
Well, Joe, those are going to have to be your last words. Anything briefly that you would like to discuss before we end the show? We're just out of time, actually.
Yeah, I got one quote I want to leave.
Okay.
And this is what the workshop sums up. If you run after success, success runs away.
Right.
But if you run after excellence, success runs towards you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Words are well taken.
Yes, sir.
Pleasure
Experience,
to have
brother.
you on. Hopefully to be at the workshop.
Yes, yeah. Oh, we got to have you there, man. You a trailblazer, man.
Yes, and again, it was a very enlightening and also informative show to have you on, talking about the entertainment industry, and wish you best of luck. I know you're always traveling different places, so hopefully we can run across paths again at this workshop and in the very near future.
I need you, brother.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, this is Jonathan Small. I had just enjoyed hosting this edition this morning of Face to Face with my guest, a very well-developed person in many different areas of the entertainment industry, cartoonist, filmmaker, producer, writer, educator, many other different titles beyond that, Joe Young. And I hope people was able to learn some important areas about the music and television industry in his up-and-coming workshop that he's planning for this up-and-coming May. There's always many good programs you could always tune into throughout the week here on accesstv.org Network Studios. Right now, I do not have a guest or show confirmed for next Monday, so I have to work very hard to find somebody and a particular show to put together. But until then, for people out there, have a very peaceful day. Thank you. Okay, that's it.